because you can go take any surfboard off the shelf and kite surf on it.
You know, you look in snowboarding, some guys run slalom gates and some guys ride a half pipe.
If you come up and snap up off the lip, man, you're Superman.
You know, it's one thing to just go 40 feet and just hang from the kite and fly downwind and land. It's another thing to go 40 feet, do some spins and unhook and do some passes or do whatever you do.
That kind of all came together.
Suddenly everybody just stepped back and started to kick back and just say, hey, it's going to be all that.
I'm speechless. It's the first time I ever win anything. I'm so happy.
Where's Lou? Is he not here? Oh, you gotta get Lou.
Came out here to try and pursue windsurfing as a career. You know, to me, Lou is one of the early, most progressive pioneers of the sport. And he actually did start the whole wakeboarding craze.
You know, everybody's, oh, handle pass is new school. Well, I got news for you. Lou was doing it a long time ago.
The rider that was most consistently pushing the envelope was Lou.
As far as influences and people in the sport, you have to look at Lou, hands down.
He invented so many of the tricks that are standards now. Just stuff that we're just going, oh my God, look what he's doing.
And he was doing them in 2000 on the most basic gear.
I can feel the good times coming again.
He was always doing the craziest stuff. Jumping rocks, 50-foot airs, high loops. It was unbelievable.
I didn't beat my head against a rock, you know, it just came, it was natural.
He used to saw surfboards in half and ride half of them with no fins to see how they work. And then he'd go shape it later. He'd go get the grinder and grind it into something weird and drink 2 Starbucks coffees and be up till 4 in the morning building weird stuff.
Lou was out on a McDonald's tray just ripping. My friend Mauricio, he had a tray in his kitchen to wax it up.
I worked with him a lot in kite development, and he had tons of ideas coming out of his head. Just sometimes he was unable to get all those ideas immediately onto paper and make them reality. He had too many ideas.
I used to tell him all the time, Lou, man, you're way too far ahead.
I don't think even at the time people appreciated the stuff he was doing as much as the guys riding now.
He tried to bring it out to the media. We didn't see it.
If you're doing stuff that's so bizarre that they don't know how to judge you, there's no reason to compete. Just go out there and do your thing.
Lou Wayman is a perfectionist. He'll go out and do the same trick 10 times in a row and you won't even notice the subtlety.
Lou was never really part of the whole contest deal.
He would never get through a heat.
He'd show up, have his little kite and his little board, go out for his heat, do one trick, and disappear downwind out of the contest area, and you'd never see him again.
But it didn't matter. Everyone knew who the king was. Sure, I'd like to win, some money for doing tricks or something, but at the end of the day, it's well, did you really learn anything, or did you just kind of perform a circus act?
He's just on the edge of insanity with his riding, with his personal life.
It reminds me a lot of that guy in that Dogtown film, Jay Adams. Man, that's Lou, straight up.
He just couldn't hold it together because he's God.
At least Lou hasn't been in jail, so that's a good thing.
There was Lou and Elliot, which was actually one person back then.
So, Lou and Elliot, for sure, they hung out together.
Lou Wyman and Elliot LeBeau. Literally, I thought that was one guy when I first started hearing about him because they were just partners in crime.
We got along a lot. In the beginning, we were really into the sport and how to get better. He's really business-oriented and very structured on this is what will fly. And I'm kind of off the edge, nah, we gotta just go crazy.
Lou was convinced that he could wakeboard off of one. Pretty had his mindset. He's like, yeah, it'll work, don't worry, it'll work. And then, sure enough, it worked.
They were out every day. They had nothing to do except go out and kite.
Used to play where I was king for a day.
Go have Starbucks in the morning or whatever and drop my truck off at the beach and take his all the way up 9 miles to the other beach. Once we got there, go to lunch, go back into his car, come back, have another coffee, whatever.
I saw it hands-on, riding with him every single day.
You could just go on and on about Lou. Not that he would say it. That man is a very shy man. Name another kiter that's on 7-meter lines. Name another kiter that's gone barefoot. Lou goes so high that when you're on the water watching him, you're afraid, and he's the one up there.
I'm interviewing Bertrand. He's this kid from France. I'm like, so what's up? He's like, Lou Wainman. I saw Hai, I saw Lou, I come to Maui. I mean, he could barely speak French, someone's translating, and he's like a Lou protege, and there's hundreds of Lou proteges out there. But, you know, it's like there's only one Lou.
La-di-da, la-di-da. Yeah, it's nice to have a friend.
Whether or not he got the recognition he deserves, you know, I'll straight up tell you he's a guy who helped make the sport what it is today.
It's really just a case of being at the right place at the right time. I mean, I think there's 1,000 people who deserve a lot more credit.
Feel the good times coming again.
A lot of the first kite mares, they happened out of public view, but they were real, you know. They were very real.
Puget Sound is like 35, 40 degrees. I'd get stuck out in the current, come back very cold, very hypothermic.
Literally, I was at a point where I did not have any energy left. I'd expended everything I had. It was a slow, like 10-minute drowning.
The wind died, and I was out there till 10 o'clock at night, floating down the coast. I couldn't get out of the current, and I finally hit Baldwin Reef. Nobody knew where I was, and then finally they realized I was gone, and then they sent out everybody looking for me.
They called them kite mares. Someone would have some crazy experience of being tangled up in their lines and being pulled out to sea, or seeing a big shark, just getting the crap kicked out of you.
In the barb, the wrong direction, being thrown through the trees.
I've had worse lickings kiting than just about anything. Water can be really hard when you hit it really hard.
Daniel got bit by a shark. Daniel's probably the only person I know who got bit by a shark. I give him my knee brace, and like a day later, I get the message, he's been bit by a shark, and the shark has bit the brace into pieces, but only like, you know, what, how many stitches?
30.
30 stitches.
So what Brett didn't tell you is he went fishing with it the day before, got a bunch of mahi and ahi guts all over it, and then said, hey, Dano, you can borrow it. He raced, no worries, enjoy.
90% of the injuries that happen on land, usually during the launch or landing process.
There was like one cement block in the middle of this field. We hit that cement block and then just ripped it up. If you could survive a whole coast run without having to swim in or have your friends have to stop their riding to help you drag all your broken equipment in, you're a hero.
The wind increases, and all of a sudden you've got a paraglider on you, and you're heading towards a house or a tree or a rock.
We got pummeled a lot. I used to ride foils on my skimboard. And you make a mistake out on the outer reef in the big waves during the winter, you're not only swimming, but you're swimming with a fish net and a trash bag full of water with your skimboard.
You don't say I'm gonna quit ever, but you're like, what am I doing? It's funny, like you don't panic, you know? I think that drive just to do the sport tomorrow and kind of pull it together, and you'll swim in 5 miles, man.
One of my worst experiences was falling out of the sky so hard and hitting the water so hard. You have so little air in your chest. You know, you got...
The board's tombstoning, you're like, oh, here it comes, poof, past your head.
Shooting past your head. It was called stretching and loading a leash.
I lost my kite and my leash broke. And Mike's like, oh, I'll grab his kite. And so he kite surfed up to my kite and tried to hold it down on the water while he was flying his kite. And I'm swimming like hell trying to get up to him. And all of a sudden I get close to him and I look, and he had let his kite go, and my lines had wrapped around his neck, and he was just trying to get the thing over his head. And he did just in time as the kite powered up and blew away. And I was just like, whoa, that was as close as it gets, you know.
One of the worst things I've seen was a friend who was learning at Kite Beach, and he knew what he was doing, but he was landing down by the sewer plant. His kite got away somehow and just drug him into a tree, and it knocked him out, and then the kite relaunched. And he got sucked up into the tree again, and it broke his hip. Finally, the kite fell in the road, and he's completely unconscious, and he's alone. And somebody was driving down the road, and they couldn't go by because there's a kite in the highway. For some reason, they followed the strings back and found my friend at the base of the tree. He recovered and uses 4-line kites now.
Can be dangerous. I think that's part of the draw of the sport, too. If it were riding a bike, 1 billion people would do it. They want to be safe, but they also want to have the thrill of what it feels like to be flying through the air or going Mach speed down a big wave.
Going out and really pushing yourself, somehow it qualifies your life, especially if you survive. You know, then you're like, yes, you know, I lived through it. Flash was a character, is a character.
He was the character.
He was the best rider in the world, hands down.
Flash is definitely leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else.
Oh, I deny any involvement in the whole thing.
I think he's still here. I think he's on the North Shore of Maui. Rumor has it.
I came here in 1997.
Flash came from Florida.
I guess you could say that I was wave deprived as a child, you know. Really sad, I know. I was skimboarding down the beach in Panama City Beach, and we saw a guy with a box kite where you get pulled on a buggy. And I begged him to let me try it. I felt the surge of power and the fun of the kite, and I was hooked immediately. I ran home, I grabbed as much money as I could, and I came back, and he ended up selling me the kite for like half the price.
He was a kite flyer, buggies and stunts, and he started going out on a skimboard in Florida. And he got paid to put an advertisement on his kite and do these 5-mile coast runs that ended at a bar. So he was basically like a cheap airplane advertising thing going by down the beach with this bar on it. And he goes, I gotta go to Hawaii and do what these guys are doing with the foot straps.
These things are like monsters. I'll tell you what, it has some raw power to it, man. I just take the kite and I whip it over there and boom, fly through the air. And then if you crash, it's not so bad because you're on water. I happened to meet a guy who was a street clown who ended up bringing me here to Maui. He's like, I'm going and I'm never leaving. And I said, oh, I'll go and I'll look for a couple weeks. I had no idea about what Maui or Hawaii was really about. I ended up meeting Joe Cool, strangely enough, within the first couple hours of being on Maui.
I just got, this guy just doesn't get it, you know, I mean, he doesn't really understand the wind yet. But he goes, one more time, he's just begging for me to stay, not to leave. So he launches a kite, he gets it up, jumps on his skimboard, goes sand sliding on his skimboard, hits the little short break lip, becomes airborne, drops back on his skimboard, just rips way out into the ocean. I was like, wow! I was like the first guy that could really kiteboard that I'd ever seen up close. I was just totally amazed, so moved into my house and...
I'd like to thank a few people, if I may. I'd like to thank my roommate, Joe Cool, because I'm probably about a month late on rent.
I started running around and introducing to people.
Well, Joe Cool kind of introduced me to everybody. I was actually working in a restaurant at Mama's Fish House, being a waiter and a busboy.
And he would kite at Ho'okipa, come into work at Mama's. Customers liked it.
I ended up coming down here to Ho'okipa and meeting a lot of the professionals.
Flash was an unknown. He had no training. He was just raw enthusiasm. And when you talk to him, you'll see.
Like I got the reins, and this is a bunch of horses. And they're just they're rearing to go. They're rearing and ready to go. I tell you what.
2 to 3 minutes, Flash.
2 or 3 minutes till countdown.
Cool.
Till takeoff. T-minus 3 minutes to take off. Every time I would catch an air, like 8 to 10 or 15 windsurfers are like, woohoo, you know.
Flash would come out here on a super windy day and he would fly like 40 feet in the air and be spinning all over the place, and it's like, I'm gonna have to learn how to do that.
Because that guy was boosting whatever you gave him. It didn't matter. He'd switch in the middle of a competition. He didn't even care who was sponsoring him. He'd grab a different kite.
Everybody in Europe knew his name.
I couldn't wait to go kiting to catch air and surf waves. Then I became an airtime junkie.
He's arrives on Maui, buys himself an old surfboard and puts foot straps on it.
But we went down to Ho'okipa and he had this sandboard and he started at the top of the beach of Pavilions and rode this sandboard with his kite into the water and was gone. And we're just like, wow, what? Jeez, what's that?
That guy could boost off the back of a wave and make it really impressive.
Wow, he took the thing to this whole new level.
Years later, I'm still here.
Oh my God. Oh, well, that's awesome. Then I'm happy now.
I'm against Hadlow, so I got to step it up a little bit. He's the current world champion, and I'm more than twice his age, so we got to throw down.
That's pretty cool. Had a few good runs, good jumps.
It's my first competition international, and I'm very surprised.
You don't realize it when you're in a sport and you're involved. You don't go tell your friend, hey, wow, you're really old, you know? Now there's more of an attraction to the younger crowd.
The youth of kitesurfing can be on a par very fast with much older, experienced guys.
This year, I've noticed a good 10 or 15 older guys that normally would have entered, just going, I can't compete against a 15-year-old kid that woke up and just went, oh, this is natural for me.
I'm Nicola Porcella. I'm the youngest skateboarder in the world.
I'm 15 and I want to be better and better and coming in the top 3 of the world.
Getting those young guys pushing the limits, making it more technical helps to put it there, to really give it its own identity.
This year I start going big power moves and I'm gonna win the King of the Air for sure.
If you were 12, 13, 14 years old and windsurfing, you were doing it with like your dad and his friends. You didn't have other kids to do it with.
I have been kiting for about 3 years now. I'm 13 years old.
When they break down, it takes them 6 months to recover, but it takes the older guys about 1.5 years.
You have no fear. It's not until you start growing a little bit older, you start to grow a healthy fear.
It's just getting younger and younger and younger. I bet half these Red Bull qualifier kids don't even have their driver's license.
Back when we first started, we were like, man, it'd be cool if there's a bunch of kids involved, you know, and that's when we'll know the sport's probably gonna take off. You know, you look at the beach now, if you're 25 years old, you're old.
Kids learn the quickest because they have no fear and they just listen and do what you say. The women, the second fastest. A gentle hand goes a long ways in the sport. And the men dead last. And if the man's got some guns, super last. All of that pulling on the kite is just counterproductive.
It's all ages. I mean, my brother 13, all the way up to 50 and over. I mean, all these guys, we're just hanging out and we're just having fun.
And it's great because you gotta have new blood coming in. It's what pushes the sport forward.
It's really cool right now because all the kids my age are actually on the top of the sport. And plus, I mean, you get to hang out with these guys and these guys are crazy. It's so much fun. The rider who's most impressed me is Ruben Lenton. Man, that guy goes off.
Started kiteboarding like 4 years ago in Holland. I can let go all my feelings and stress, whatever. It's so much freedom and you can do whatever you want.
You know, you start to get a little cocky and you're like, yeah, you know, I've worked really hard for where I'm at. And the next generation, the younger guy comes along and just takes it a step beyond it. You're like, I thought I was as far as I could go, but apparently I have a lot of work to do.
They're picking up this sport so fast, which usually for a lot of ocean sports, it takes a long time to get to that level.
They're doing it and they're ripping. Very quickly, we'll be steering the future of the sport.
Kiting is a global sport. It blew up in a couple of years just all over the world.
There's so many guys coming into it from so many backgrounds, from so many countries.
I'm originally from Colorado Springs.
Right now I live in Los Angeles.
Japan.
Holland. South Africa.
France.
Germany. I'm from Holland.
Houston, Texas.
Hood River, Oregon.
A local Maui boy.
Fly to, it's something that's been very good for the industry and the sport.
It's a qualifier event in 10 to 15 countries. When you win the competition there, you get the flight and also the accommodation paid.
It's expensive to fly, it's expensive to stay here in Maui, especially if you've never been here and you don't have friends to crash on their couch or anything.
That makes it much easier for the riders to come.
We've grown up with this sport, and it's been this novel thing that we're all traveling around the world doing.
And I mean, I went from only being in Seattle and maybe going to a few spots around the country for sailboat racing. Next thing I know, I'm like in Spain, I'm in Germany, I'm in Amsterdam, I'm in Dubai.
I just came back from Italy. I got all my kiter friends together. I was there for a week, and they had me on the news every night. They're just looking for something new. In Europe, people really want to participate.
It'll open up the world. You'll be able to go in spots you would never be able to go before.
All of a sudden, it's opened up all these waterways that nobody went to before.
All these places in South America and over in Europe.
It's really growing fast because people are going, there's a lot more places than we were windsurfing.
So that travel destination side of the sport is really opening up the whole world.
The fact that you could ride a McDonald's tray as compared to a windsurfer shows you the potential of this sport.
The kite companies, they're still innovating. You're seeing lots of gear changing.
I think it'll be kind of like what skateboarding became. A skateboard can be used in a swimming pool, or it can be used to go from one town to the next.
Back in '95, we're going to a ski hut in Austria. I pull out my kite, put a rope on my back, and pulled 4 people at a time up to the ski hut for New Year's Eve. You can go 50 kilometers in one direction with a kite to the next ski hut, have a glass of wine, and kite back to your car. Have you seen the footage of snow kiting? There's some guys just basically soaring with the kites and kite looping over snow. In Norway, they have 30,000 active snow kiters. If you ever get the chance to try to go somewhere, you'll see why they're so excited.
I think extended flight is what's coming up. The kites will be somewhat collapsible for size and changeable for size, and we'll be in the air much longer.
We won't even have kites. I think we'll have that arc shit, but we won't have lines and we won't have boards. We'll go inside that ladder, so we'll have just like a wing. You'll basically be like a pelican, be able to do flips and stuff. The original idea of kiteboarding was to have everything in your backpack and almost be able to travel incognito. Eliminating the lines, eliminating the bar. I don't want to say a Batman suit, but yeah, it's pretty feasible. There's no reason why you couldn't get inside of it, mold it into a wing, and a very lightweight one to collapse down to something that goes in your backpack.
I think kiteboarding is growing really fast because it's a very beautiful sport. It's intriguing. People look at it and go, how on earth do you do that?
Maybe 10 years from now, I personally think it'll be a kite that will break the world speed record on water and on land.
When windsurfers hold the world speed sailing record, and we've got twice the sail and half the board, you think you got potential.
We haven't even seen it yet. This is just the beginning. We don't even know what's around the corner, like we didn't see kiting coming. I think it's got a big future.
I wake up really early, go to school, look at the beach all day, look at the water, it's way down there, I gotta get there.
You're always looking at the trees to see if there's wind.
It's just such an elated feeling of anti-gravity. You know, we all love to fly. We all love Peter Pan. You don't weigh anything. When I kite, I'm flying.
It's kind of like a magic carpet ride, you know? You just get pulled around all day for free.
It's not slowing down. The sport is just taking off.
They were right in the industry. I mean, it is a very futuristic sport.
The fact that you can go upwind and that the sport finally got traction and established itself
just opened up whole new possibilities.
You're tapping into this energy that you cannot see.
we're able to create power. It's like a propeller.
You can just move this kite all over the sky, and
You have all these other sports coming in. Now it shows more potential.
we've taken everything we could from those sports, and now we're going our own direction.
It's really, really fun to be able to go out there and just use you and the wind and the water and just express yourself however you want to.
Because of everybody who's taken it to this level, past and present, kiting's going to be something amazing.